All right. Welcome back to the Beyond Coaching Podcast, the show where we go deep with coaches, gym owners, and fitness entrepreneurs building real businesses and real impact. Today's guest is Joseph Hawthorne, the founder of Block Fitness Collective, a high-touch, semi-private training company with 2 locations in Tucson, Arizona, and a long-term vision for growth. Before launching Block, Joseph ran a successful group fitness gym in Pasadena, but sold it and moved to Tucson to build a model with personalization, hospitality, and team development at the core. He's built a business that prioritizes retention over churn, career ladders over burnout, and real systems that make scaling sustainable. Today, we're going to dive into how to build a leadership team that stays, what elite level hospitality actually looks like in a gym setting, and how to stop treating your gym like a job and start treating it like a business. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So you had a great gym in California. Take me through, moving on from that and why walk away from a winning business.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first launched it, it was kind of at that peak time where CrossFit was really starting to boom. Things were coming into play. People were shifting from just one-on-one to group. And the only other options besides CrossFit were kind of the outdoor boot camp scene. And so I immediately found a niche in doing group fitness where it was a way to offer an intensity level that was much more scalable for your kind of everyday average person who wasn't ready for CrossFit or maybe had some nagging injuries and they just couldn't quite do all of the moves or develop the skill sets and wanted to invest that time. And so we really kind of exploded and thoroughly a great space. Loved it. Great community. We had a solid almost 6 years, but towards the end of it, I just realized like it no longer was what I wanted to be doing. And it had built such a heavy niche of a community within the group fitness aspect that to step away or to turn it off would have been the same way for me. Right. And so there was no light at the end of the tunnel unless I literally just completely decided to make the shift and leave. So thankfully I had head coach there who was phenomenal, had everybody's buy-in, knew what he was doing and ready to kind of take that next step and wanted to take that next step. And so we were able to transition the business over to him, new name, new identity. But I mean, he's still coaching a lot of the same people that I started at that space back in 2012. So that's incredible to see, right? Like you know that the community was there, the training was there and the right coach stepped in to do the thing. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, I was just going to say on that real quick too, because let's not glaze over that. Like that's pretty epic. I think the fact that you were able to sell a gym, you built something that was sellable, which is difficult to do. I know many gym owners that had to, that ended up buying a gym for 10 grand because the owner was just like, and like ran away and then had to like build something from the ground up really like with scraps. So that's legit. And then how cool that you had put in such great systems community that it's still going and prospering. And I think you even mentioned to me like probably doing more than what you were doing with it before.
yeah, I'm pretty sure he's doing great with it. He's about to open his second location now. I just saw that and was talking to him a couple weeks ago. So yeah, it's definitely kind of kept. And I think the biggest thing is that there has to be some buy-in bigger than it being tied to the owner. Like you can't have key man risk. And so if you're the show, you're the hero and the client isn't the hero, then that's where it's going to be problematic. And I think that's where the burnout comes and all of those things. I just was like, man, this isn't the type of training and systems that I want to be doing. I love what is built here. I was just ready to evolve, if that makes sense.
Yep. Get in a bigger boat, go further. So question for you, as you were looking at moving and opening another gym in Tucson, what did you not want to replicate from your old model? What were you going to leave behind?
The main thing was the style of training. I saw group fitness as a commodity that was just going to be everywhere and eventually that price was going to go down. And people wanted specificity. They wanted to be able to come in and say, I want to focus more on bodybuilding. I want to focus on rehabbing after this hip replacement. I want to insert whatever the goal was. And we know humans at the end of the day just want to feel seen, valued, and heard. And so the underlying principles of what we needed to deliver was there, but I no longer wanted to do it in this massive group style where it's one size fits all. And then you're trying to complexify it by modifying for people on the fly. And so wanted to create a way to do almost like one-on-one and give people that individual training program that is very niche to them, but in a shared space. And it's mainly because I selfishly just get bored. If I'm coaching the same type of thing over and over again, I get bored. I want to have a 12-year-old athlete that's, working on thoracic rotation and some power to drive a golf ball further. And I want to have in the same program a 79-year-old with a fused spine, and we're doing some heavily modified stuff and everything in between from a power lifter and an ollie lifter. And it's just more fun to be able to have an environment where I get to constantly grow and challenge myself, and coaches as well. You're not just stuck in kind of that one niche, just doing youth fitness or just doing, maybe an older population demographic or anything in between. And so it was just a way to kind of leave the generalized group fitness scene behind and do a semi-private model that I didn't really see done in too many places, where it's can be hyper specific on each person's kind of goal and needs. So that was the main thing to leave behind as far as the training aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything that your semi-private model, the way you've built it is different than most? Like, is there anything do you think special other than, I mean, I know there's like a lot of hospitality, customer service, great coaches, but anything that you found to be like a hack or a secret or, a trick on that?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. The first is just being able to have consistent communication with that person throughout their entire journey. So to know their goals and make sure that all the coaches know exactly what they're training and they're after. And then to make them feel like this is for me. It's not just a pre-templated plan. And I think that's where the ball really gets dropped. And so for us, it's come in, do an assessment, get you set up with a training plan. Coach actually writes that plan for you, and it's specific to that person. And we will put a ton of notes on the exercises that they're going to have, which really just constantly has their name involved in there, and whatever the goal is. And it's just always tying it back. And so we can use that as leverage to keep them focused. If that person has a hiking goal, it's going to say, hey, Jack, we're doing these split squats because we really want to make sure that those knees are strong. So when we're attacking those hikes this fall, when it cools down, we're going to be good. You could have someone else doing split squats as well that is like, hey, Nancy, we know you want to get down on the floor and back on up to take care of your kids. So that's why we're really working these split squats. Same exercise, different notes, different things, but it's really just hyper specific to them. So I think that's the main kind of key piece as far as that goes. And then we just deliver it on an app. And so the nice thing is every single client has their own training plan on our own custom app. They roll in, and the app is your old school version of a journal that a personal trainer would write down, or a notebook or a clipboard. It's just modern. Everyone's got one. Goes around and attaches to our rigs or wherever you need to. And then the coaches, it doesn't matter if I wrote your plan or one of my other 10 coaches wrote your plan or they're coaching you. Everybody can easily make sure that they're coaching you on the moves that's there. And so nobody ever feels lost or disconnected.
Yeah, I love that. I think that high touch, hyper personalized experience. It's funny how I tell this to my team here, powerlifting is our vehicle of fitness, but that vehicle can look differently. If someone comes in and their goal is to, maybe they have some back pain, they want to reduce back pain or get stronger to, again, be just for Gen Pop reasons, be able to lift their kid up or whatever it is, or pick up one trip the groceries, versus the guy that wants to step on, the powerlifting platform and compete at a high level. Their training might look a little bit differently, but the nuts and bolts are going to be the same. Or how we talk about it. It's more so how we talk about it will change. We're not going to spook someone. The movements, I think a lot of people, they think that they shouldn't be deadlifting or they shouldn't be squatting or doing some of these movements, these basic or big movements that we should be doing, these compound movements, because it's fear-based. But we as coaches should be able to talk them off the ledge and tie that to goal. And I think that you do a great job of that. So I think that's huge. Absolutely. Moving on to, you opened a gym in Tucson and then you opened a second one. So let's talk about it. What did you think was ready to scale that ended up breaking?
Yeah. Probably the whole thing. I think that's just normal, because I literally look back. I had a ton of different friends who have started different, multiple spaces. And so I consulted with all of them. And it was kind of the same thing as when you're getting parenting advice before you have a kid. And it's honestly probably the same advice you would get from other gym owners before you start your own fitness studio or before you go online and try and launch your own thing. It's really the same thing, which is you don't know what you don't know. And you're not going to we can give you all the advice in the world, but until you actually do it, you're not going to figure it out until you just stumble your way through. And so, I had really thought I had dialed in the marketing side of things. I was like, cool, we have a, nail it, then scale it type approach. And that's what I wanted to be able to do is I've got this system down for marketing, so we should be good on the client front. We've got these systems for training. This is how we do an assessment. This is how we do training plans, etc. This is how they walk them through. This is how we hold people accountable. So I had all those systems dialed in. And I had an incredible staff. And I had completely stepped away from any of the day-to-day within the current space for a complete year at that point, because I was like, I need to make sure that it can run without me sustainably to make sure that I can do this. Now, yes, I was playing a big role within the marketing aspect, training and development of the team and that whole aspect, but the day-to-day wasn't me. And so I thought, well, everybody's told me like you need to be able to do these things, you'll be good to go. I had all the information. So I was going in there more blind than I probably should have. And then I realized that my biggest opportunity was that I needed to become much more on the growth side for coaches than I even was. And because I had coaches that had been there in the original space for 4 years. So they're coming in with, I'm leaving this space that's already like thriving to coaches that really truly know our systems, how to communicate with clients, how to pivot, how to handle when there's a roof leak, how to do any of these random things that pop up
Mm.
constantly. And I didn't have a system of how to train coaches on that. And so really it was a higher level of I need to have a system on how to train coaches, how to train coaches.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense or if I'm
No, it does. It's funny because it's the things that we don't think about. It's probably like those little fires we put out throughout our day that to us are just like it's just what we do, and it's things that we never even thought to systemize because it's again so little, and we do it the same as taking breaths. We breathe without thinking about it. And so as you pull out and go, chase another endeavor, expansion, whatever it is, obviously you're now duplicating the amount of things you're taking on, duplicating these amount of problems. And if you're the one problem solver, then you're the bottleneck. So it's almost like you have to create leaders that take initiative that can act and make decisions within reason, like without you being there is my assumption. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really the best way to kind of describe it, because I kind of shifted where I knew I needed to just focus on being talent acquisition and development side of things. I needed to find the best talent that was out there and develop anybody that had the right personality type and overall, skill sets that just needed to be brought up. But then there's that whole level where, yeah, those people are there with you, then still guiding them and coaching them. But the moment you're
Yeah.
not there, how do you have that? And so it's almost two levels of systems within that regard, not just one. So, because you get used to, you're just there with your people on the floor, you develop them, you train them, life is good, you move on. So you actually
Mhm.
need someone to either be in that role constantly of training and development that is just that more than anything else. So I think it was honestly like I wasn't ready to be a big business. I wasn't ready to be a real business. And when you look at like real business from kind of what I've picked up slowly and still learning, trying to figure out, but you
Yeah.
literally have someone that just focuses on marketing, someone that just does the finances. You have a marketing team, you have a financial team, you have a sales team, right? You look at like they have all of these different things. And when you're in one gym, even if it's a pretty big and successful one, I think a lot of those things, it's just everybody's kind of sharing multiple hats. And it needs to be really clearly defined as who's wearing what hat. And then it needs to be that there's a system for each of those that you can just pick it up, you can read it, you can train yourself on it, and you can rock and roll. And that's what I
Yeah.
wasn't ready for number two.
Yeah. If we own everything, we own nothing. And so it's the same. It's like there's zero ownership. Like I've had things in the past where I'll talk to like my top, my leaders and be like, all right, we had a coach that we had to get rid of like last year who was kind of handling some gym maintenance stuff. And then the idea was like, oh, we'll just all pick it up. Okay, yeah. And no one, and then
Yeah.
some people do it, some people don't. It's a system. So it's really clear. I agree. So like in gym business, especially like I think in most small business, there's probably a lot of cross contamination between teams. There's a guy who's doing marketing, but also kind of on sales and maybe some customer success stuff. And so like they're doing those things, but that person can still have three roles without set outcomes and metrics and targets to hit with clear SOPs. The problem that we get into, I think, in the gym business is we'll just be like, okay, you're going to handle Instagram and email, and then do some sales on Thursdays, and then I'll do it on the other days, and just like it's very unorganized. And so I think what you're saying here, I believe 100%. It's get clear outcomes. It can be the same person in the seats. Like most of our fitness companies aren't big enough to have full on teams or a full time chief marketing officer or something like
Right.
that. But we can build roles efficiently and have people fill multiple roles as long as the expectations are very clear. Right.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Cause
Okay.
we're not in a place where I can be like, all right, cool. Here's a 6-figure salary for a CMO and then this for this,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just not possible. And so it's figuring out like what is the ways to have specific roles, specific tasks and done a very specific way. You're basically your SOP per person. And then I think the biggest piece that we've finally, I'd say just this summer, and we're finishing, about to hit year 6 in the business and had the other one before this too, right? And I'm just finally starting to learn is that, yeah, you can have all those things, have all the SOPs, but then it needs to be a consistent conversation, like communication with the team about where are things at? How is
Yeah.
this going? And it's those check-ins that are so absolutely critical for that. And it's not in any way to micromanage. It's honestly, in my opinion, it's the other way around, to just be like, hey, where are things at? How are they going? And so that your coaches feel that same level of support. Because it's like, if we don't check in with our clients and they don't feel that support, that accountability, they actually don't feel like that it's the right program for them. And so I think it's the same thing from any type of role or coaching role. It's more of just a way of like, how do you feel this is going? And that drives the business forward and keeps it on track.
Yeah, and one of the other bottlenecks that I oftentimes see, I see there's two types of gym owners. The one that is more laissez-faire, a back end, and then has leaders, step up and execute. And then there's the other owner, there's the other owner that's really in the weeds, in the business, doing a lot of the coaching, or like micromanaging team quite a bit. And the problem I find with the latter option, I mean, both options have their pros and cons, obviously, but like at that second, the micromanager, they oftentimes you don't create leaders within your organization that can actually take initiative and make decisions. And so you are then the bottleneck of decisions being made. And then your capacity sort of dictates the growth opportunities that you do have, because things aren't happening unless you're in the weeds and you're in the business. How have you developed leaders within the organization that feel comfortable making some decisions in the day to day? Obviously, not like crazy ones that cost a bunch of money, but like I'm sure that there's, like you mentioned, these small things, leaks and things that happen. What have you done? Have you let people fail and then correct? What do you do?
Yeah, we have a phrase that we just really try and ingrain, which is like, you don't want to be right, but you want to get it right. And so that's one of the ones that I just try and live thoroughly and demonstrate. Like, look, if you see anything that is wrong that I am doing or that I demonstrated, like, I don't need to be right. I just want to get it right. Because if I get it right, we all get it right, we all win. And that's all that really matters. And so the comparison that I use with the client, the coaches, it's like, you could be a brand new first day coach, doing our internship, no experience, you're green. And for some reason we decided, we're going to bring you on. We see something in you to go through this internship. Right. And the first thing I say to them is that whole kind of phrase as well. And I just ask them, hey, if I'm doing a barbell back squat and, I've got a few plates on there and I'm repping out, are you going to like offer me any type of correction or, conversation afterwards about what you saw and what you noticed? And almost all of them say no. And I'm like, we are kind of a traditional gym. We don't have mirrors in that sense, right? Like, you don't want mirrors for a powerlifting gym, right? It'll throw you off. So we're the same way. And so I said, we don't have mirrors. I can't see myself. You're like, so much more. That would be weird to step on your toes. No. You can't feel what I'm feeling, but I can't see what you're seeing. You're my eyes and ears. It could be giving me guidance. So if I'm doing something wrong or I have an opportunity to get better and you're not going to actually give that to me, I don't think you're the right fit for us here at Block Fitness, even as an intern. I need you to have a voice because I don't need to be right. I need to get it right. And so that's our overarching message. And so I think that just like, we try and instill that with all of our coaches, like kind of a simple way to put it. Hopefully swearing's okay, but it's just like, fuck around and find out. Like, look, I don't want you to ask for permission. I want you to literally just ask for forgiveness if something happens. And so the situation is really just like with anything that happens, I want you to pause. I want you to think through all the different options. Is it going to cause any type of financial like devastation to the gym or to yourself? Is it going to cause any type of injury to anybody specifically? And if not, I want you to take the best answer that you feel is fit, run with it, and then give me feedback on how that went. And so it's kind of that. I mean, from our interns on up, that's the message. I tell them, I don't want you to ask our coaches questions about what they're doing, what they're cueing, why they're doing it. I want you to write them down. And then by the end of your session, I want you to hopefully have answered those questions yourself. So we try and start it from the very beginning of the internship. We want them to be curious. We want them to be hungry to figure things out. And so it starts even when we're teaching them how to understand coaches' cues, and all the way up. So it's really just let them screw up.
Yeah, I love that layer of like humility. Like I had my leaders read the book Radical Candor. I don't know if you've ever read that one.
Yeah, on the shelf.
Perfect. So you get it, right? One of the things that I wanted to make really clear to them is like, I'm no guru. I made some good decisions, made plenty of bad ones. I'm sure you're the same, but we need to create that two-way go of if I'm going to be able to give you criticism or feedback, you can give it to me too, because I want to get it right and I don't need to be right. So I think I love that mantra. I might steal it from you because I think
it's not mine. I heard it somewhere. You know what I mean? Like everything came from a good book or a better, smarter person.
Nothing's novel these days. Yeah, nothing's novel. AI slop made it somewhere. So 100%. But yeah, I think that level of humility is huge, and letting team know that, like, again, that they shouldn't be afraid to give that feedback or give their opinion. And it's like in team stuff too. Like you might get coaches or clients will give their feedback or opinion on something, and there might be reasons, maybe something we tried 3 years ago that didn't work, that they weren't around for, and then they had that idea, and it's like, I tried this, and here's what happened, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we do have experience, but at the same time, being open to that feedback, talking about it, and feeling as letting our team know that they have a voice. Because I think a lot of owners don't make team feel that way. So then what team does is then they just turn into people who clock in and clock out. It's a job. And that, I don't think that leads to productive, great leaders and great businesses. So what does a full career progression look like at Block?
Yeah, no, that's a perfect segue because that's literally what I was thinking of when you're kind of finishing that last
Yeah.
phrase. I'm like, yeah, and it's so critical for them to have a hierarchy. And that was one of the other reasons that I wanted to start this business in a completely separate way than the first one. When you're doing group fitness stuff, group class style, there's only so many ways you can go. It's for people, it's like they have to just coach more classes and they have to take a few one-on-ones on the side. And then eventually they're just burnt out on so many hours and they try and do an online thing. They're kind of capped. And so I feel like you either need to build a gym like a Mona Lisa. It's a one of one. It's a weird, unique thing, but people come from all over to see it because it's the Mona Lisa and it is what it is. And because of that, you can actually charge appropriately and pay appropriately on both sides as a gym owner. Or you need to build a gorgeous painting that has the ability to be printed and repeated and bought at a slightly lower cost across them. And so it was one of those two options for me when I was building Block. And it was really with the coaches in mind, knowing that coaches, they just get burnt out and then that's it. And they have to do more hours. And I hated that. And so I wanted a place where they weren't going to stay the average, 6 to whatever time frame it is. It's super short and burn out, 18-month career, whatever it is now. And so looking at Block, I thought, how can we have it so that if you just want to be a coach, come in, coach a few hours, we have that as an opportunity for you if you're phenomenal. If you want to coach full time, we have that progression as a position for you. If you want to do a little bit more on the technicality side, we have what's called then a senior coach position. And so our senior coach, now they're able to write training plans specifically for people that are coming in that need that individualized attention. And they're getting a percentage based off of that. And then they're also able to do assessments on new clients that are coming in. And so their day is no longer just filled with adding more and more coaching hours. And it's a salaried position, paid benefits, all those good things. And I don't think you can find that too many places. And it took us a while to get there. We weren't able to do that year one out the gate. But then from there, and maybe they want to actually do a little bit more on the managerial side of things. And so that's where we have one more level up, which is a lead coach position. And a lead coach is really, that's kind of like it's their studio, they're running the jam. But they're not stuck having to do the marketing side of things. We've taken those pieces off of their belt, right? So they can still do what you and I and most people that got into this industry want to do, which is coach. They just don't have to coach more than 12 to 15 hours, total a week. And most of the time that's actually, they're just coaching the other coaches that are there. They're developing their bench for who's going to be their next senior coach that's within that realm, or hopefully whoever's going to take their position as lead coach so we can develop the position from there. And so I feel like it's the only way we can have it so that intern comes in, they're like, I love this, I want to stay on, get a coaching position from coach. They can just kind of keep climbing that hierarchy ladder. And our eventual goal is to have that CMO position, that CFO position, once we have multiple locations, so that it really shows, hey, you can stay within this industry. We'll ride the wave with you. And if it's that you want to open your own studio or do your own thing, that's cool too. We've helped 3 other of our previous coaches own their own studios now, which is a super rad accomplishment and then something we're super proud of. Because we're, hey, we want to be our competitor. Like, let's at least do it the right way so you don't just invest all this money and time and fail. So yeah, I think it's just really kind of, we're trying to create paths that you normally can't find. It usually is, I coach a lot, or I just go into management, or I'm just selling all day long. And I don't think most coaches truly are just a manager or a salesperson. And so that's why.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I was at a learning event yesterday with Dr. Ben Hardy. He co-wrote Gap in the Gain, 2x easier than 10x easier than 2x, and Who Not How. And it was a pretty intimate session. He was talking about how the best companies that are built for scale should be defining like huge goal and reverse engineering the path to get there versus a lot of companies strategize for growth and they do it the opposite way. You build something, you get to whatever revenue or size, and then you're like, okay, we want to do 1.5x or 2x next year, and then we'll plan for that. It should be the opposite. You sort of did that by this business model being coach focused, team focused first, because you knew that if you can build a solid team and give opportunity, that trickles down to client experience and quality and value that we provide clients, which then increases bottom line, which then we can build bigger business. And so I think that's super cool that you had the foresight to do that. I think as coaches, gym owners are looking at this, solving for the coach issue is huge, especially in our industry, because like you said, people burn out. There's limited ceiling of what they can do. If we can paint that vision for the coach, but also like solve for that vision with business plan, I think is actually a huge thing people should probably be doing.
Yeah, I think you're giving me too much credit. I don't know that I actually had that full foresight, but yeah, I definitely wanted to build something that was super sustainable. And I knew the only way that I could do that is either I stay in the trenches and coach everything for the rest of my life, which not a realistic thing, raising a family and all that, or build something that people want to scale and roll with me and give them opportunities. So yeah, so I mean, I think it's everything you're saying. I don't know that I truly had that level of insight.
Yeah, for sure. Take me through your team leadership cadence. What's your cadence for meetings and feedback and performance?
Yeah, so for sure, every quarter we sit down with every single one of the team members, and so that's like a given, when we're doing our quarterly reviews. But we also meet with, and when I say we, I mean my wife and I. She runs a good half of the business. She joined on in 2023. Finally, I was convinced her to do so, to leave the corporate world. And so, yeah, so we'll sit down with them. Our two main leaders, lead coaches at each one of the spots, guaranteed once a month. It's usually more, but it's a guaranteed like once a month actual sit down. But it's almost every single week that we're having a debrief in some capacity, because it's just like, hey, how's the studio going? What do you need? Where are our numbers at? So that they have a good pulse on the thumb. How's the team doing? What do they need? Any conversations? And so we can really just use it as a way to consistently develop them as leaders, because a lot of it now is just, hey, how'd you handle that situation? Cool. What do you feel you could do better with that coach situation or that client situation next time? Awesome. Sweet. And you're like, yeah, I'm really sorry I lost that client. Hey, you know what? That's a good learning experience. Let's take it. Let's run with it. Share it with your team about what you learned. And so then it's just that constant cadence that way. And then with their senior coaches, we usually get with them once a month as well. And then the whole team, we also do a monthly meeting. So it's pretty much every single week we're meeting with one of our leaders and then our entire team. And then the actual lead coaches, they meet with their senior coaches and then their individual coaches every single week.
Yeah, definitely. How have you tied metrics, KPIs, performance to compensation models?
Yeah, so we've done it a myriad of ways over the years. And what we have figured out, just to make it extremely simple, is that it is just a percentage from profit. Because ultimately, like we've done it from churn, and we've done it from retention strategies. We've done it from myriad of different things. And it's just the simplest one, because at the end of the day, like that's the one that really just tells us if there's something unhealthy with the rest of the business. Then we can dive in more. Coaches, our lead coaches see the churn. They know exactly where they're at with that. They know exactly how many members they've got, how many training plans, and we can watch all that. But yeah, man, just a profit share every single quarter. We do it quarterly. It's just really, really simple way to do it.
100%. Yeah, I think I told you about it on the previous call. I read the book Profit Works, Not Profit First.
Yeah,
also a
not
good
profit
book.
first.
And yeah, the same thing. My leaders are paid their salaries and then get a pretty much profit super bonus on what we exceed our profit target by. They get a percentage of the delta of what we exceed it by. And I find that works really well, because then we hit target. We don't dig into target by paying them a percentage of what the target was, but they get what was extra. And the target that we set is a fair target to where they're still we'll hit that and they'll exceed it and they'll succeed. And like you said, I find I have had so many different compensation structures over 8 years, trying to figure out what incentivizes people, what works, what makes sense for the business and our margins. And it is so difficult to land on something that works. And once you find something that works, it's like this huge aha moment of like a thank God moment of like, finally. And I think it always should revolve around profit. And a lot of gym owners or even just business owners are so weird when it comes to talking about bottom line. We always talk about gross revenue and top line and how cool we are and stuff, but really what matters is the bottom line. And if we're a real business with true structure, we should feel comfortable with sharing the bottom line. I find that when I speak, I do a lot of fitness business coaching and consulting, and there's always this moment in a gym's growth where we need to create a legit business and not this passion project. And a lot of that means gym owners should be getting a salary W-2. We should probably have coaches that are W-2. Like we should probably be within like legal guidelines that we were maybe treating as shades of gray before. I'm sure you've experienced this the same. And the issue with that is a lot of gym owners, one, they don't even know what their profit margin is. They don't track that. They track revenue, expenses, and they're like, oh, okay. But two, they don't even pay themselves anything on a consistent basis to know what does your business even look like if someone was paid to do the role that you're doing, because the margin that you have is a fake crazy margin because you're not compensating yourself and you're not paying payroll taxes or health insurance or benefits. And so that was a huge lesson and learning curve for me, because after I got legit, I was like, oh, okay, like this is real now. And like, this is what numbers really look like. I need to do these other things or optimize for this versus living in fantasy land where everyone's 1099 and I just take owner's distributions. So I'm sure you've gone through similar stuff or heard similar things.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. I think you have to go through that learning curve no matter what, and probably within most businesses, but for sure within the fitness business, because I think we're all coaches at heart first. And so, yeah, it's a steep learning curve for us.
Yeah, 100%. What does elite hospitality look like in a gym setting?
Yeah, great question. When I was building out Block Fitness, just knowing that people want to feel seen, valued, and heard, and that customer service is such a common thing that's just thrown around, and it's like, treat them right and create this. We're a family and we have this community. Like these are all kind of the classic buzzwords, right? And so I really wanted to be able to put more specifics to the definitions and to actually have examples. And so I actually started looking out at, well, what are these companies that are just known for hospitality? And when you think hospitality, you think hotels, right? Like that's where the term even kind of comes from. And so the Ritz-Carlton is known as one of the best for hospitality more than anything else. They even sell a course and have a program. I have not done it, but it is something that I would love to be able to do at some point. And then you think about these places that are so special and unique that people feel extremely inclusive. They feel completely unjudged. And you think Disneyland, right? Yeah. And so it's like, whether you want to stay at the Ritz or you want to stay or go to Disneyland or not, both of these companies have it dialed down in with what they are trying to do. And so I started studying them to the best of my abilities. Starbucks was another one. And just trying to understand, well, what do they do that creates elite hospitality? And so it's like, when you look at Starbucks, they've got that they say your name the moment you walk through the door, usually after you've been there one or two times. And you're like, how does this barista person know my name? It's quite amazing. So they put an emphasis on that, greet within 5 seconds. So we applied that, greet within 5 seconds, no Irish goodbyes. You gotta say goodbye. And so we'll chase you outside the door and we'll yell goodbye at you, if you're trying to duck out. And so it's that instant, with the Ritz-Carlton, you pull up and I stayed at one just to like take a bunch of notes. It was before I had the finances to be able to do anything of the sort, but I was like, I got to study this company a little deeper. And it was amazing. The, the valet took your car keys, took your name. And because of that, then they relayed the message to the front desk person. So they were like, Mr. Hawthorne, they write it down on the little like thing. You think they're just taking your car. That's normal. They write down your name. And all of a sudden, you got the doorman opening the door. Welcome, Mr. Hawthorne. And the person at the desk saying, Mr. Hawthorne, your room has been upgraded. And so they automatically give you an upgrade, but they all know who you are just from that first thing. And so we've then tried to apply that. So before you even started our gym, your very first time, we've already done a phone call. So we have some details about you, what you're coming in for. And there's a name on a board that sits out front of the gym that welcomes you into the space. Then when you come in, it's instantly, hey, Zach, welcome to Block Fitness. And it's usually, oh my gosh, saw my name. That's pretty cool. Some people take pictures of it. And it doesn't seem like much, but it's a big deal. And then we go through and like, hey, so I was talking with whoever it was we had doing the phone call, usually my wife or myself, setting them up. And so it's that level of then we're just repeating. So you were telling my wife, Kirill, that your goal is to, you want to deadlift 1,000 pounds and we're at whatever. This is super exciting. And so it's, now that we're as a team already on the same page. We actually listened. We actually cared. So it's not just customer service, because I think one of the biggest things that I absolutely hate is you call a credit card company for an issue, you tell your whole story, then you get put on hold, they transfer you to another department. And then then they're like, okay, and who are you? And what's your problem? Why don't you tell me all about it? You're like, I just did.
Yeah.
I want that next conversation to go deeper. And then the whole team knows exactly your first start date, what is going to happen, what you're dealing with. And then they can come around and greet. And so you get a shirt. So, like you're a part of the team right away. But it's a lot of those little touches that it took a while to build into systems, but they truly matter. And that's what I feel like elite hospitality is. It's going above and beyond when you don't have to. People are already coming in. They're probably already going to sign up because they know we can usually fix and address most issues and help with most goals. And we're now at a place where we're pretty regarded in the area that we're at, which is great. But
Yeah.
elite is going above and beyond because we still want to and because we can.
Yeah. Do you think that so going back to this learning event I was at yesterday, one of the things that Ben Hardy talked about was raising the floor is the better definition of culture. So culture should set itself, because by raising the floor of expectations of what we tolerate by team, people see themselves out, etc. How much of this has been something where I'm sure typically what happens, maybe with your culture, you bring people on, you sort of continue to define your culture as you're going, or maybe you got a plan and we can get into that, but then you hire on, you kind of start to look at the traits that you're seeing in the coaches that elicit the culture. And then you see the traits of maybe coaches or team or people who don't fit culture. Maybe you have those hard conversations and boot them, or they see themselves out. Ideally, that's the case, is people see themselves out if they don't reach our standard or meet our floor. I guess how much of this was something that you had to maybe instill? And then is it sort of on autopilot now where, man, if an intern is part of the system, like they get indoctrinated into the system and they understand it, or you still have to teach it?
I don't think you can ever turn it off. And maybe that's because I don't have the skill set yet to be able to have it at that level. But I think it's always got to be instilled, reminded, almost just preached. Every single team meeting, we start off with our mission statement and our core values. And so it is just there constantly. And over again with our coaches, we now have it so that even with my newest, youngest coach yesterday, we sat down and met and went through some stuff. And it's like, we're setting up her goals. And so I think if the coaches have a very goal driven mindset, focused mindset, that passes on as far as the culture, to your point, directly to the clientele. And so if they feel supported, and her goal was like, I want to deadlift double times body weight. I'm at 205, I want to go 280. And I want to be able to break my 5 pull-up that I've never been able to do. I'm like, cool, let's get after that. We got a 3-month time frame. Let's chase this. And so I think it's having those consistent conversations with them, so then they're aware of it. I've got one guy who wants to run a marathon. I've got another one that's climbing a mountain. And so it's like consistently instilling that we are never done. There's always something else to put our drive and attention towards. We can always keep improving. We can always keep striving towards stuff. So I keep instilling that in the coaches and helping hold them accountable and using my leads to do the same. And I think that's what creates the culture within. But I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like if you took your foot off the gas with that accountability piece, just knowing we're all human, there are very few people that are willing to do that and be that themselves. And usually the ones that are the ones that are running their own gym. They're the ones that are they're the crazy entrepreneur that is out there doing their own thing, and everybody else maybe has a tendency of that, a piece of that. And it's there. It just, this fire always needs to be stoked. And those are your kind of traditional coaches. So yeah, unfortunately it's not on autopilot, but at the same time, I'm still a coach. And so I'm coaching them. So I think it's actually a good thing for us.
Yeah, 100%. And I didn't expect it to be, but I think that, like, you talk about, if we look at elite team culture, we look at sports teams, being one. Dan Campbell had a quote either today or yesterday I saw where it was like, our hardest workers are our best players. They're the same person. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Because I've also seen it to where, like, I played a bunch of sports growing up. Oftentimes the best players were not the hardest workers. And then they didn't make it to the next level and so on. But, like, there's a reason these guys are professional athletes. And so I find that you want to be on a team in business too, where your hardest workers are also your A players, and creating that culture and facilitating that environment starts with you as owner and top down. And it trickles down, and we need to lead by example and probably have systems in place, like you said, to ensure that we're still speaking about these goals and our core values and our mission statement and alignment on vision and stuff like that. So I think that's you hit it on the head. I think that's perfect. How does Joseph stay motivated? Like what drives you as you've been doing this for a while? You had the gym previously. You've had these gyms, right, for about 6 years now. What keeps you pushing forward?
Yeah, honestly, it's just the never ending thirst for knowledge and curiosity, and just realizing that with each level, I'm like, man, I don't know anything. And so for me, the more that I learn and humble myself to admit that I don't know anything and learn something new, well, then I just want to revamp the business, and I want to teach others that and instill those things in them as well. And so I think the thing that keeps me motivated is just that I'm always doing some course, some form of education, whether it's on the business side, whether it's on, the biomechanics side or, more of a specific niche element of the fitness world side. But that definitely does it. And so I think then I want to teach it. And then I want to like change
Yeah.
our training plans and update things. And I want to like evolve. And so I think it's a little bit of this need to constantly be busy and constantly improve. But I think it's
Yeah.
also that, at the same time, I don't want to get bored and I don't want to sit around and be like, oh man, I could have done more or I could have done better. And miss out. And so I always like waver between the two. I'm like, and ask myself, is this an insecurity thing that if I stop, it's going to be, I didn't do enough and I'm going to have that like kind of mental aspect. And so I use that as kind of a gauge. And if it's a yes, then I actually will force myself to just slow down. Right. Cause I was like, all right, let's open, studio number 3 by the end of 2, pulled back. And I'm like, nah, that's just ego. That's not,
Mm,
we're not at a place where the team is ready for that. That's just what the original vision was for the team, but the team's not ready. So that's actually serving Joseph's ego. That's not actually serving the team, which is what the original intent of building multiple studios was, So it's definitely some self check-in on that side, but growth is fun. Challenging myself is fun. Like doing hard shit is just actually really fun. So yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I mean, like I find that oftentimes if our motivator is revenue or member count and things like that, it's like it's a fleeting thing. Oftentimes, then when times are tough and tough times come, always it's cyclical. Then our motivation ends up lacking, and then we have no drive to actually fix the shit that we need to fix. And so having some like intrinsic factors, like you mentioned, maybe fulfilling what you define as your potential can be a driver. And I've also too, like been searching lately to figure out like what Zach's potential is. And like, if we can define that, then cool, I can solve for happiness and peace. But I think it comes in waves. But I like what you said too about like the learning side of things. I find that so many entrepreneurs in general, but fitness wise, like we cram our days packed with so many things that we leave no room for us to continue to learn and grow. And so a lot of owners, become complacent in their knowledge gain, whether it's on actual fitness or even just the business of fitness. And all of a sudden, then we're not growing as leaders, as people, as business owners. And then that hurts our business as well. And so this whole idea of like working on your business versus in your business comes to play here, where we need to have room to work on the business. And sometimes that means blocking out a couple hours to go journal and do nothing so that we can create the white space to be creative, because you can't be creative if we're slammed with tasks and to-dos and meetings and stuff. And so I find the most successful entrepreneurs that I've met in other industries have the most amount of like creative time thinking stuff in their calendar, where they're just sitting down and ideating and being creative. And it's extremely impressive. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where you don't really get the ROI on that until you do it. And it's kind of fear based, when it holds people back. So like, well, I could be, getting paid for a session right now, or doing a sale, or reaching out to leads. But oftentimes we focus on these like lesser goals to feel good about ourselves that are keeping us from the bigger goals that we want to attack. So
Yeah,
I
we're
think that's a
checking the
good piece.
task box because it
Yeah.
feels like we're accomplishing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I actually kind of fell in love with is mountain climbing, more on the mountaineering side of things a few
Mm,
years back, right? Because I kind of run through like all my checklist of to-dos that were fitness wise. I'd done all the Spartan stuff. I'd done Seal Fit, done Go Ruck, and I was kind of like running out. And so I was like, let me go climb, some big mountains. So what's fun is you're literally out there for, and some of your shorter ones like Mount Rainier, like 3 days, and some of your longer ones, I did Denali, that was 3 weeks, but you were completely out of touch. And so you're completely remote, no cell service of any sort, nothing. And the amount of clarity that it can bring to your head as a person, but also as a business owner, is immense, because you aren't able to just, pick up the phone and dial back in or deal with a sale. And you realize like, oh, wait, none of this matters. And it actually still runs, and it actually still ran fine. And we'll solve those problems when we get back. And so just periodically, because of that, have taken time to do that. I know Warren Buffett has done that like his whole life, right? And a lot of these guys, even Bill Gates, would go and do his 2 weeks of book retreats, where he just literally sat in a cabin and read books for 2 weeks. And so I think if you
mm,
look at the best entrepreneurs, they're doing it.
yep.
And so we can do it also as just kind of fitness business owners as well.
100%. What's the long-term vision for Block? How far out do you look and plan for, and what does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. What we want to accomplish is 2 more studios in the Tucson area. We feel like that's what we can actually do based on the demographic and the size of our city. And then from there, we would like to open a more performance-based studio. And we've got some elite level talent as far as coaches go, and some clientele that have some potential to go to the Olympics and some endurance race stuff and some things there. And just thought there's a huge opportunity to help those demographics as well in town. And so we'd love to possibly have a performance based and do some youth athletic stuff as well as a 5th studio in town. And then from there, we'll see. Phoenix isn't too far up the street as another potential expansion from there. But yeah, we want to take care of our people who are in town first before we grow from there. Not trying to go like 4 million studios or anything
Yeah.
to that degree. So yeah, 4 for sure. And then maybe a performance studio.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, Joseph, I really appreciate your time, dude. This thing was jam-packed. I really appreciated it, and I think that anyone listening will get tons of takeaways and value.
Appreciate you having me on.
100%.